If you're high and you know it, raise your hand. My name is David Bass. I'm the Director of Veterans Outreach for Texas NORML. I use cannabis every single day. I started using cannabis for the symptoms of PTSD and chronic pain, and it helped me a lot. And so that's why I joined Texas NORML in 2012. I became the Director of Veterans Outreach for Texas NORML in 2013. Because I'm not going to stop using cannabis, and I want cannabis to be legal. I need to be able to go down to a dispensary in the Fort Hood community, just like I went down to Strawberry Fields Dispensary in Pueblo, Colorado a month ago, and purchase my cannabis legally and use it legally. There's no reason for the state of Texas to arrest me and incarcerate me. I just break one law in the state of Texas, and that's the law against using cannabis. Otherwise, I'm a law-abiding, tax-paying, voting veteran, and I don't belong in prison. And I'm looking around this room, and Carlos don't belong in prison, Bill don't belong in prison, and none of you belong in prison. And it's not right for Texas to arrest 70,000 of our brothers and sisters every year for using cannabis. Two of our very good friends and cannabis activists in the state of Texas have been arrested very recently. One of them has been working his ass off down in southeast Texas rescuing people from the floodwaters. And right before that happened, he got arrested for possessing cannabis. The other one is a veteran, one of our veteran leaders in Texas, and she got arrested for using cannabis. So what we're doing is not some kind of theoretical exercise. This is real life. And we all know people who have been arrested and had their lives completely upended by being arrested for using cannabis. There's no reason for it. It's unjust. And so we, Texas NORML, Heather Fazio and Texans for Responsible Marijuana Policy. This is Heather Fazio right over here. She's the head of our coalition in Texas. How many organizations do we currently have in the coalition? 25 different organizations in our coalition in Texas. We are very, very strong. And Heather gives us guidance and points the direction where we need to go. And we work together because we have different ideas and we come from different backgrounds, but we all totally agree that it's not right to incarcerate Texans for possessing cannabis. And we're not going to stop working till that stops. How many people do we have here tonight that this is your very first Texas NORML meeting at the Flamingo Cantina? That's a lot. If you're not a member of Texas NORML, be sure and stop by our table and get our brochure and consider becoming a member. We're a 501c4 nonprofit, and we work up there at the legislature lobbying in favor of changing marijuana law. And we work out here on the street. We're a grassroots organization talking about our goal, which is a medical marijuana program in Texas and a legal marijuana program in Texas. So please join us. How many veterans do we have here tonight? Stand up. Let us give you a round of applause. Thank you to our veterans for being here. If you're a veteran and I haven't met you, be sure and get my card so that you can email me and join our Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana email list, and we'll keep you informed of what we're doing. Jax is going to come up here and talk about our food collection for the victims of the hurricane.
Hello, everybody. It's not 100 degrees outside. I'm loving it. It's good to see all you guys. I want to say also, raise your hand if you are a Texas Normal member. Awesome. Thank you very much. You guys are fueling the work that we do. Also, raise your hand if you are a Texas Normal board member. These people can help answer your questions about what we're doing and how you can be involved. So just come on up to our table. Betty and Alex will also answer any questions you have. But let's talk about the food drive that we have going on. So everybody knows about Harvey and how awful it's been. I'm personally from Houston, and my childhood home was totally submerged. So it's pretty crazy what these people are having to go through. And the cannabis community has been stepping up, not just tonight by doing this food drive, but also in El Paso. They have collected a truck trailer full of food, water, cleaning supplies, and clothes. Additionally, as Dave mentioned, we've got people from Southeast Texas who were using boats and dispatching rescue calls to people for days on end and are still doing that because they're in Beaumont. And Beaumont is still having a lot of water issues. And in fact, the gentleman that was arrested, who is participating in the rescues, was looking for a missing friend when they were arrested. And the cop said that he had nothing better to do. So let that sink in. So it's really important that we do things like this, that not only help our community out, but change the perception, the misconception of what a cannabis consumer is, right? As Dave mentioned, we're all just regular people who like this plant that grows really well and that we would like to have here in Texas. So I see that we've gotten a lot of food donations and some hygiene donations. If you would like to also donate some money, we have a jar up there where you can make a cash donation as well. We will be packing up the truck and delivering it tomorrow to the Central Texas Food Bank. It's down on the south side of town. And what they're going to do is take all of this and redistribute it. Central Texas Food Bank is going to be feeding a lot of evacuees that are coming here, but they're also sending truckloads to Rockport. They're sending truckloads to Beaumont and Houston. And you know, we hear about Houston a lot, but we have to make sure that we are supporting organizations that are not forgetting about the small areas as well, because they are hurting just as bad. So we want to make sure we show that support. And then hopefully we can all grow cannabis along the coast. It'll be amazing. So after the meeting, if you guys want to stop back by the table, if you have any other donations, please do. Heather's over here, so I'm sure she'll also chat with you about marijuana, because that's like our favorite thing to talk about. All right, Dave?
Thank you, Jack. So before the last legislative session started, we were contacted by a mother who needed to be able to use cannabis for her children. And she needed access to medical marijuana. And she wrote a letter to Governor Abbott telling him about her children's situation. And Governor Abbott's office wrote a letter back to her. And the letter was kind of rude and basically told her, you know, if she needed to move to another state, just go ahead and move to another state, because Governor Abbott does not support and never will support medical marijuana in Texas. And so, now I'm not putting you down, brother, but stop saying get him out. All right, you're not going to get Governor Abbott out of office, okay? When I'm on Facebook and people come up in the comments section and say vote him out, you're wasting your breath. You're not going to vote Governor Abbott out of office in Texas. It's just not going to happen. The only person that's going to beat Governor Abbott in Texas is Lieutenant Governor Patrick if he runs against him, and he's going to run even more conservative than Governor Abbott. So just forget about get him out and all that. It's not going to happen in Texas, all right? What we have to do is convince Governor Abbott to support our cause. That's what we have to do. And so I wrote a letter to Governor Abbott, and I asked Governor Abbott to meet with a group of 6 veterans from various conflicts in the state of, that are from the state of Texas and have served in different wars, and asked Governor Abbott to sit down and talk to us about medical marijuana, and let 6 veterans, a Vietnam veteran, a Panama invasion veteran, an Iraq veteran, an Afghanistan veteran, 6 different veterans, tell Governor Abbott why they use medical cannabis. Because to me, if 6 veterans sat down and told Governor Abbott why they need access to medical cannabis and how it helps them, then it seems to me Governor Abbott would say, okay, I understand. I will now support medical marijuana. It seems pretty simple to me. And so with Heather's help and all of your help, how many signatures did we gather, Jack? 1,400. We gathered 1,400 veteran signatures who co-signed the letter with me, and we went up to the Capitol, and we did a big display of pill bottles that we collected from veterans, and we contacted the governor's office and requested this meeting. And I actually got to meet with one of his aides, and he very politely listened to everything I had to say, took voluminous notes, and then said he'd get back to me. And the answer was Governor Abbott wasn't going to meet with us. And so, knowing that Governor Abbott didn't intend to meet with us, we delivered the letter to his office at the Capitol one day. So we know that his office received the letter with all the signatures. But Governor Abbott would not meet with veterans to discuss medical marijuana. And to my knowledge, until the other day, Governor Abbott hasn't really ever given an interview to really say why he's opposed to medical marijuana. But the other day, he did. With a television station down in San Antonio, he talked to them about medical marijuana. And Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the very first time he ever actually had this discussion. So, if this works, I want you to listen to Governor Abbott, because he's going to tell you why he opposes medical marijuana in the state of Texas. So we'll see if this works. If it doesn't work, then I'll tell you.
This is a law and order state. We have been, we will continue to be so.
That's Governor Greg Abbott's message to families who have left Texas to get access to medical marijuana treatment.
The governor spoke with Channel 5's Leslie Aguilar today. Leslie's live in the studio with his reaction to our special report from last month. Leslie.
Right now, Governor Greg Abbott shows no signs of changing his stance on medical marijuana. Last month, we showed you families from all over the state who say medical marijuana is drastically improving the lives of their children. Channel 5 News introduced you to the Garza family last month. They moved from the Rio Grande Valley to Colorado to treat their 2-year-old daughter with medical marijuana.
We know that cannabis is medicine, marijuana is medicine, and it's not what people put it out to be.
We also introduced you to the Zartler family. They give their daughter marijuana illegally in North Texas.
What I know is that it works on my daughter.
And we shared Maya Rivera's story with you. The McAllen mother wants to try marijuana treatment for her son.
This is probably like our last resort.
Tonight, Governor Greg Abbott is responding to pleas from those families.
As you point out, I did sign a law that provided for what's called CBD oil for treatment for those with epilepsy. And at this stage, that's as far as Texas will take it. One of the beauties of the way the United States work is that there are different states that have different programs, and we have the opportunity here in Texas to observe what is going on in Colorado. And I got to tell you, there are some potential upsides, but there have also been demonstrated some potential downsides.
What are your concerns about some of the effects that the law has had in Colorado?
Well, there's been, as one example, multiple reports of different cases where, because of lack of standardization, there have been overdoses or overreactions in a very bad way for individuals who were using it there. But there's also the historical concerns about the way that this could turn into a gateway drug.
Advocates of medical marijuana in Colorado, like Jason Cranford, say that's just not true. Greg Abbott isn't the only politician who holds those views, though.
What they fail to realize is that cannabis is not toxic. It's not toxic at any level. You can't overdose and die on it. There's been 0 deaths with marijuana overdose.
Well, the message we have in the state of Texas is that there are federal laws concerning the use of drugs that Texas wants to continue to abide by because we want to do all we can to ensure that we are going to limit the expansion of illegal drugs, making them legal. And that's just the way Texas is.
Families like the Garza's, Zartler, and Rivera have to wait for a change of heart in Texas or for the federal government to take action. They all hope change comes soon for the sake of their children. Now, 3 Texas facilities could start dispensing CBD oil by January. That's a marijuana treatment that does not have the chemical that causes a high. Only people with epilepsy qualify for access to that. To watch our past stories on this issue, just head on over to our website, krgv.com.
All right. So Governor Abbott has finally spoken, and we finally waited this time. Governor Abbott, why do you oppose medical marijuana in the state of Texas? And so Governor Abbott has given us 3 very clear reasons why he opposes medical marijuana in the state of Texas. And these are the 3. The first is, we are a law and order state, and we want to comply with the federal law outlawing marijuana. But here's my reply to Governor Abbott on that. Governor Abbott, there's a lot of federal laws that you oppose. When you were the Attorney General of the state of Texas, somebody asked you what you did every day. And what you said, Governor Abbott, is that you come into your office up there at the Capitol and you sue President Obama and then you go home. My point is, there's plenty of federal laws that Governor Abbott opposes. Just because a federal law exists does not mean that it's a just law. And so what I asked Governor Abbott is, yes, we understand cannabis is illegal at the federal level. But Governor Abbott, do you believe it is just to arrest 70,000 of your citizens every single year, year after year, and completely ruin their lives and upend their lives simply for possessing cannabis? Is that just, Governor Abbott? And my second question of Governor Abbott is, yes, the federal law outlaws cannabis, but don't you have any passion in your heart? Because Governor Abbott is a very devout Catholic. Before Governor Abbott goes to work every morning, you may not know this, he goes to Mass at a Catholic chapel right up there by the Capitol. And so I know that Governor Abbott is a very religious person. And what I would like to talk to Governor Abbott about sometime is St. Augustine. St. Augustine said there's 2 kinds of laws, God's laws and man's laws. And St. Augustine said if we have to choose between God's law and man's law, the first precept, the number 1 precept to take into account is, and this is what St. Augustine said is the most important thing for us as human beings on this earth. St. Augustine said, do good. And Jesus said on the Mount of Olives, all the laws in the Bible, all the prophets can be summed up with just one law. Do unto others as you wish to be done unto you. And so I say to Governor Abbott, The federal law is unjust. Let's have just laws in the state of Texas. The second argument Governor Abbott makes, and by the way, did you notice that he admitted there are some upsides to legalizing cannabis in Texas? Did you hear him say that? Yes, he did. But he didn't dwell on whatever the upsides are. I would love to hear it. Governor Abbott, tell me, what are those upsides, Governor Abbott? Let's talk about it. He focused on one downside. He said people are overdosing up there in Colorado. And guess what? He's right. They are. I don't know if you read that hilarious article where right after they legalized, a reporter from the Washington Post or the New York Times went to Colorado, and she ate a cannabis-infused candy bar. And she ate the whole damn thing. Read the label. And I tell you what, I've been there. Right after I started using cannabis, my very first event with Texas NORML was a reggae fest, not the reggae fest, but a reggae fest here in Austin. And so that was my very first Texas NORML event. And I was out there working, and everybody's smoking cannabis. And this guy was selling these really delicious little candies. And he told me, he said they're made by a chef, a pastry chef here in Austin, and they were really, really good. And he said, look, dude, he said, this is infused with hash oil. So he said, you be really careful with this because it's really potent. And so I was like, okay, cool, I got it. And so I took a bite of it. Man, it was really fucking good. I mean, just the taste of it was good. And I ate like half of it and nothing happened. I was like, nah, I think I got ripped off. And so I ate a little bit more of it. Man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I got to go lay down in my tent. And I did. I went and laid down for like 2 hours. But guess what? I didn't die. After I got up after 2 hours, I felt like really relaxed and chilled out. And and neither did that reporter up in Colorado. She didn't die she didn't die either. None of these people have died. Yes, people go to Colorado and they consume too much, and they have a bad trip or whatever, and they're all freaked out. And then like 2 or 3 hours later, they're fine. They're okay. They learned their lesson. Thank goodness. When I was in Amsterdam one time, I asked the hotel clerk, I said, hey, man, what do you do when your guests overdose and they're like freaking out in their rooms and stuff? He said, oh, man, that shit happens all the time. And he said, what I do is, he said, I take a glass of water and I fill it half full of sugar and I have them drink it and it brings them down immediately. I've never tried that, but that's what this clerk in Amsterdam told me. But he told me, he said they're okay. He said whatever, you know, a couple hours later they're fine. And so Governor Abbott, sir, people don't die from cannabis. They do overdose. I got that. We admit that. I've done it myself. But you don't die from it. You're going to be just fine. And Colorado is working on the issue of children getting hold of cannabis. But that's always an issue. Whether cannabis is legal or illegal, that's always an issue. And just like it is with alcohol and guns, you know, you have to use common sense and keep kids away from guns, keep kids away from alcohol, and keep kids away from marijuana. We got that. We understand it. But the overdose argument, I'm sorry, that don't hold water because nobody's dying from it. What people are dying from, Governor Abbott, is opioid overdoses. Including veterans. And so those of us, like me, who were addicted to opioids and getting them from the Veterans Administration, unlimited supply for life, man, I was set. I could have all the opioids I wanted for the rest of my life, straight from the military doctors. But cannabis saved me from my addiction to opioids. So Governor Abbott, yes. People are dying from overdoses, but it's overdoses of legal opiates. We want access to legal cannabis to use instead of those dangerous opioids. All right, you don't have to raise your hand, but how many people in this room have ever experimented with marijuana? Raise your hand. All right, now put your hand down. Please raise your hand if you're a heroin addict. Wow, no heroin addicts. Look, if marijuana was a gateway drug to heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine, this would be a room full of addicts to heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine. But we're not. I used cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine way back in the day, long before I was in the Army. I used all that. But I use cannabis every day now, and I have no urge at all to use heroin, methamphetamine, or cocaine. That's reefer madness. That makes no sense. So, Governor Abbott, we invite you to come down to the Flamingo Cantina the first Wednesday of every month and meet a whole lot of people who use cannabis every day, and not a single one of us are a heroin addict, a meth addict, or a cocaine addict. So look, I think it's wrong when we're on social media to use profanity when we talk about Governor Abbott. I think it's wrong to be disrespectful of Governor Abbott. What I believe personally is that we should always be respectful of our governor, and we should work as hard as we can to convince our governor that the laws against marijuana in the state of Texas are unjust, and we want his help to change those laws. So we're not going to give up asking to meet with Governor Abbott as veterans. So veterans, when the new year starts in January, we're going to kick off Operation Still Trapped. And this was a suggestion from veterans down in Houston. They said, look, Dave, we don't want to give up on this Operation Trapped. We want to call it Operation Still Trapped. And I think that's a brilliant idea. And I'm going to write another letter to Governor Abbott, and I'm going to ask Governor Abbott to sit down with 6 veterans from 6 different wars and let us explain to him why we use cannabis. And we're going to ask every veteran in the state of Texas to co-sign the letter with us. And in 2017, we're going to be right back up at the Capitol asking to meet with Governor Abbott and showing the media and everybody who will listen to us this letter and these signatures and our pill bottles, and we're not going to give up talking to Governor Abbott until we convince him to support us. And the thing is, if he never supports us, we're still going to keep using cannabis. That's just how it is, Governor Abbott. All right. Thank you for your support. So do you think I'll be okay one-on-one with Governor Abbott? Can I win this argument? I think I can convince him if he'll just sit down with me. So about a year ago, I was here at the Flamingo Cantina, and I met this veteran named Keith Crook. And Keith had never used cannabis. And Keith is a conservative Republican. And Keith voted for Governor Abbott. Yes, he did. And a lot of our people in Texas Normal voted for Governor Abbott. Never think that Texas Normal is an anti-Governor Abbott organization. We're not. When we delivered that letter to Governor Abbott's office at the Capitol, I told the lady who took it from us that she needs to tell Governor Abbott that the majority of those veterans who signed that letter voted for Governor Abbott because they are conservative Texans. And so this is his constituency, not his enemies. These veterans are his constituency, and they want him to support them just like they support him. But anyway, I met Keith, and Keith told me that he suffered from the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder from his experiences in war. And so Keith and I talked, and we talked about cannabis and how to use cannabis and how cannabis helps veterans with PTSD. The next time I saw Keith, he seemed like a totally different person. He seemed much more relaxed. He seemed much more focused. His eyes seemed much more at peace. And so and I ride motorcycles with Keith. So I know that using cannabis is not something that causes Keith to just sit on his couch all day watching The Simpsons. Keith rides motorcycles. Keith is a certified dive instructor. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to dive, talk to Keith tonight. He'll be glad to teach you and take your money. Keith is a registered nurse. Keith is a very accomplished, highly functioning person. And he uses cannabis. And Keith is going to tell us why right now. Thank you.
Oh boy, this is awkward. Not my favorite thing. Actually, I came in and I didn't just meet Dave, but I met Heather and I met Jax and all of the other folks who helped guide me into this process. Obviously, I use cannabis. Obviously, I support cannabis, and I'm willing to put my name out there and back up what I say. It can have some repercussions. I'm aware of that. Real close? Yes. I really hate this close because it tickles my beard. Okay. Obviously, I use cannabis. I'm willing to put my name behind that. It can have repercussions. I'm licensed, a registered nurse, and that's okay. We'll just deal with what comes when it comes. Dave asked me to talk about why I support medical marijuana and all that, but I thought maybe a bit more important is to find out a little bit about some of the veterans, at least my story. And in sitting down and talking with the veterans, my fellow veterans, Amanda, and all the other veterans out there who I can't see because of the lights glaring in my eyes, we have a similar story. So I'm going to give you a real quick rundown of my military career up to my war, and then I'm going to give you a quick rundown about the destruction that caused. And I'm going to try to do this in a brief period of time. If you get bored with me, just clap a lot and I'll leave the stage. Okay. I joined the military in 1983 as a high school dropout 10 days after my 17th birthday. I left the military in 2010 as a regular commissioned major in the Air Force, and there were a lot of stops in between there. A lot. When I was a young man, I was very interested. I started in the Navy, but I got over to the Marine Corps as soon as I could because I wanted to be a war fighter. Nobody had the courtesy to hold a war for me, which I thought I wanted. Then it was time to get out, go to school, go to nursing school. And then they had the Just Cause in Panama, but you know, whatever. It was over in a heartbeat. But I still wanted to go. And then while I'm in school, Desert Storm kicked off. And I was in the reserve at the time because I couldn't stand to be away. All I knew as an adult was the military. And was waiting and looking like I might get called up, and it was hard to do my studies to be a nurse, and when I'm thinking I'm going to get called up this week. But I went through that without getting called up. Why is that important? Because it brings me along further. I ended up in the Air Force as a nurse corps officer after going through nursing school and some other stuff. And after about 3 years in the Air Force, my desire to be a hard charger took over again, and I resigned my nurse commission, and I gave up my captaincy, and I became a second lieutenant again. Those of you who are in the military know exactly what that cost me. I became a line officer as a special agent. Yes, a federal agent, actually a fully sworn federal agent. Yes, I have gone ahead and engineered and busted people for the use, distribution, and possession of marijuana. Yes, I have done that. Well, they were in the military, and that was against the rules, and it still is. And there's rules for a reason. That was my justification at the time. I didn't realize that it was medicine, or that it could be medicine. But hey, I grew up during the Reagan era, and I know that it just say no, and it's a gateway drug, and you take one puff, and you're going to be in a gutter. If you're a guy, you're going to be giving blowjobs in the back of a building that next week. That was the impression we were given. Wow. Anyway, I got my war. Let's fast forward a little bit, and I got my war. In the process of getting to my war as a special agent and capitalizing on my nursing career, I specialized in crimes against persons, crimes against children. That was my peacetime skill, and I saw a lot of dead kids, a lot of kids who've been beaten and abused and hurt. And that began to cause some problems, nightmares, difficulty sleeping, and all that. As a matter of fact, those problems were so severe in the sleeping and how disturbing it was to see all these images is when they called me up and they said, hey, listen, we've got this little thing going on. It's a road show, and it's happening over in Southwest Asia, and if you'd like to participate, you're more than welcome to come join us. And I said, oh, yeah, whatever. I'll get a decent night's sleep. I was so fed up with my phone ringing and getting sick to my stomach, knowing that I was going to have to go and see another dead person, carry another child into an autopsy table, that going to war that I had worked for years seemed like a good idea. A little bit more about me, some of my background and where I started. And I didn't really go into this, but my wartime skill set was tactical counterterrorism. So that sort of thing. Mostly it's talking to people, getting to know them, and then, introducing them to my friends. My friends just happened to be, SEALs and Polish Grom and all that. That was them, not me. I was the guy, the desk jockey. I was the one who sat in the back, and they'd ask me to identify him. They'd bring him out, pull the bag off his head, and identify him. I went into that, and I was going to bring a citation with me. A lot of you hear about medals. A medal is something you get, and you think, the civilian world might think that they just get pinned on you, but they actually have write-ups that go along with them. And it's very specific things that you do. And when I was there, one of the things it says on that medal is in the space of a 105-day deployment, I led 150 missions outside the wire in 2003 and 2004. So my average sleep was 2 hours a night, and literally depending on me was my team of agents. I was the highest ranking person there. And the base, because I was there to protect the base. 20,000 people on that base. And I'm shaking. Wow, look at that. This is a physical manifestation of PTSD. Happens every time I bring up this story. What you can't tell is my heartbeat is going about 130 beats a minute right now. Thank you. I know that. I'm humble too. I'm so damn humble, I make Mother Teresa look like a total wanker. Yeah, she ain't got nothing on me. When you're out there, you're responsible. And when you're the highest ranking person, you're doubly responsible. Steve Kling, who's I just met today, who's out there, knows this. So let me tell you the great things that came out of Iraq. I went to Iraq a captain. I left Iraq 4 months later a major. That's a clue. I got a citation, did some neat things to some not so neat people. Now let's go back to responsibility. What part's making me shake? Sometimes I define war as something that takes decent people and puts them in horrible situations where they're required to do horrible things. I had a team to keep alive, and through a variety of instances, but one stands out in particular, is unfortunately our enemy there like to use children as weapons. Because if you give a kid a box and push him into a street in front of a vehicle, the natural reaction of us soft Americans is to stop the vehicle, and then the fire starts coming in. And I had people to be responsible for. And I was introduced to that situation when I was the lead vehicle and doing 70 miles an hour. And I very cold-heartedly calculated that an impact at a certain angle would likely deflect the IED away from me and my vehicle, and I might have a chance to survive this, as will the people with me. Remember the part where I told you what I did in peacetime was investigated crimes against children? I thought I was the sort of person who protected kids. And therein lies the hardest thing about PTSD and about war and about this world that we live in. Cognitive dissonance. Anybody know the term? It's something that you believe about yourself so deeply that it makes up your moral character. And the dissonance comes is when you find out that that belief is something you would like to be true, but that is not actually, in fact, true. What I'd like to be true is that I would give my life for a child. Okay, enough said. I came back from that shit storm, a few other things, got blown up once, shot at a bunch of times, bunch of crap. But I came back from that shit storm, and I fell into another within about 4 months. My wife at the time, my first wife, and was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And I just started seeking help for my PTSD, and I actually was one of the lucky ones, military folks will know this, who was diagnosed as having PTSD while in the service. That really has benefited me in the future, nowadays. But I stopped taking care of myself because I'm a man and you take care of your wife. And 17 months later, she passed away. And I went on to further federal law enforcement issues down in Glencoe, Georgia. I taught federal agents. And I taught them constitutional law, just as and a few other things, but just as a case in point, anybody who, just for you to be aware of, do you think that when I taught constitutional law to wannabe federal agents that I was teaching them how to protect all your rights? That I was teaching them how to respect your rights? Or do you think I was teaching them how to get around them, how to subvert, how to abrogate your rights, how to get you to give up your rights. Okay, guys, I did a 1-week block on how to trick people into confessing. That's what I taught. So, not a very nice dude. I mean, I'm amazed that you're not throwing shit at me right now. I was there for a while, and once I'd taken care of everything that needed taken care of, I finally started looking at myself, except that I didn't. I started drinking. I'd had shoulder surgeries, multiple shoulder surgeries, and so I was using my my Vicodin. I think I was up to about 8-10 a day. A lot of Vicodin. That's easy to get. Then I was in a class and somebody showed how, they were teaching how to avoid an ambush, and it was people I knew. It was a situation on a street I'd been, and the next thing I knew, 45 minutes had gone by, and I was outside, and my direct supervisor, who was a full bird colonel, was asking me what the hell was wrong with me. I don't know. I had no idea. I know that my heart rate was 150 beats per minute. I know that my blood pressure was 180 over 130. Okay, I have no idea how the hell I got outside. I knew no idea what I was doing. That resulted in me being sent down to the local naval station to get evaluated. And I did what every red-blooded guy will do. I lied through my teeth to get out of that. That didn't work. And my happy ass got sent to Wilford Hall Medical Center, inpatient psychiatric unit. A lot of ego went away there, but I'm going to share even more. At that time, they were trying to find a way to fix PTSD because they knew it was beginning to be a real problem for their soldiers, and they were really worried about it. So they had this great idea. They'd learned from the Israelis that if you introduce soldiers who had PTSD back to that environment and force them to function in that environment, you could, with the right approach and the right medications, return them to combat effectiveness. And that was the treatment they sent me to. They didn't send me to the treatment to take care of Keith. They sent me to the treatment to return me to combat effectiveness. They put me in a simulator and firefight simulator, mortar. I told you I was bombed. I was in, bomb simulators. I mean, all this crap. They put me through this again to make me functional. Have you anybody familiar with the term crazier than a shithouse rat? That was me. That their stuff didn't work, and as a punishment, they said, well, you're going to have to take all these pills, and we're going to take away your badge and your gun because you protect people, but you're not allowed to because you're crazy. And they gave me Xanax and Ambien and Halcyon, because the Ambien didn't always help me get to sleep. So the Halcyon was for, when the Ambien didn't work. And a couple Xanax, extended release and all that, and some other anxiolytics. If it's out there, I've taken it. All prescribed for me. And I went through life as a zombie, a Xanax zombie. I got out of the military 2010. I was lost. I had no idea what to do. And I saw something amazing, a little foray off to the side. You're not clapping yet, so I'm going to keep talking until you start clapping. Little foray off to the side is I was one of those shut-in type guys. I was just going to raise my daughter, and as soon as she was out of the house and that she had reached adulthood and taken care of herself, I was going to do the right thing, which was go down to a Caribbean island and drink myself to death. Or drug myself to death, or fuck it, just put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. Who gave a shit? But I saw this guy that I admire. He was teaching wounded warriors, guys who had amputations, how to scuba dive. And I went and talked to him, and he probably saw that I needed him more than he needed me. And I got involved as a scuba instructor. I became a scuba instructor, and I started embarking upon getting better. Notice my beginning to get better did not yet involve cannabis. What it involved was service before self. He's saying, I'm a great guy. That's Dave. You're a great guy, Keith. That's what he said. Apparently, I have 5 minutes. Service before self. And to take that and to serve. And that was the beginning of healing. But it didn't stop the nightmares. It didn't stop the screaming, the anger, the violence. It didn't stop any of that. The drinking. And I was still taking all the meds. My psychiatrist, I went to teach a class, and the problem is I came to when I was in the water teaching a student how to scuba dive. I was in a full blackout from apparently the night before. I took 3 Ambien, 2 Halcyon, and washed it down with tequila. That's not abnormal. That's how you go to sleep, right? That's what it takes. Dave, isn't that how you go to sleep? And I did tell my psychiatrist about the blackout the next day, and she said, well, she's a medical provider here in the state of Texas, and she said, well, I'm no longer going to write any prescriptions for you for sleeping pills, and if you don't try cannabis, if you do not try cannabis, I'm going to fire you as my patient. So, in a non-legal state, from a medical provider who very well could have lost everything, remember retired federal agent? Who very well could have lost everything, somebody threw me a lifeline. Oh my God, did I grab onto that lifeline. And yeah, I was pretty strung out, wasn't I, when I came here? I was also shaved bald, and I looked like Walter White from Breaking Bad. Woo-hoo! Just remember, I am the one who knocks. Anyway, I came here and I found that service before self could also be applied towards changing the laws. There's something unjust. There's a need. And I, like Dave, am generally a quite law-abiding citizen. I break a few other laws that he didn't mention. He probably breaks 1 or 2 he didn't want to admit to anyway. But, as a general rule, I stick to the rules, except for that whole cannabis one, because flat out, God damn it, Governor Abbott, sir, are you really going to tell me after everything I've been through, I use less than a gram of flour a day. What's a joint? A gram, right? I use less than a gram, and it's taken me from being actively suicidal / homicidal. By the way, I have a master's degree in forensic sciences, crime scene investigation. Me being homicidal is a real threat. Because I can get away with it. I'll hide the body. Yeah, what body? It never existed. Anyway, I went from that to somebody who, I have long hair, a beard, I'm mellow. My kid likes me again. I have a successful marriage, which I fully wasn't expecting. And I've got a purpose, and the purpose is staying the course for legalization. Let me wrap up with what I didn't know when I came here. When I came to NORML, I didn't know how to approach somebody to purchase cannabis. I didn't know who to approach. I didn't know how to tell the difference between good stuff and bad stuff. I didn't know what questions to ask about it. Do you know how many people who are suffering from cancer, from PTSD, from epilepsy, from any of the variety of problems that this magical plant can at least alleviate, give some symptomatic relief, if not cure? Do you know how many of them have no flippin' idea how to get what they need? They have no idea. Governor, you want to protect the people of Texas? Sir, why don't we legalize it? Why don't we monitor it? Why don't we control it? Why don't we provide a good medicine to our citizens? It's stupid. Okay, so y'all tell me, Keith, the only med I've taken, I haven't taken any anxiolytics, I haven't taken any opioids, I haven't taken any sleeping pills. I do take an antidepressant. That's probably a good idea for somebody who's able to say that he was actively suicidal, so I'm going to stick with that. But that's the only medication I take since I've started using cannabis. I take nothing else. I don't take that crap. It's just cannabis. If you want to save lives, Governor Abbott, if you want to serve the people of Texas, why don't we stop killing them with opioids? Why don't... Oh, you're all clapping. I got to stop talking. Hey, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Keith is one of the veterans I want Governor Abbott to talk to. Do you think Governor Abbott should sit down and have a conversation with Keith? Thank you, Keith. And by the way, Keith's wife is a nurse, and she volunteered to go down to Houston and work in a hospital down there so the nurses whose homes were flooded could go home and take care of their homes and families. So this is a family that serves. Ladies and gentlemen, Preston Bezant is a member of the Texas Normal Board, a longtime member of the Texas Normal Board. It's not easy being a board member of the Texas Normal Board. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of hard work. I could stand up here for a long time saying everything that Preston has done, but I want you to know that Preston is one of your champions to legalize marijuana in Texas. We're lucky to have him on our team. I told you earlier, 2 of our beloved friends and activists have been recently arrested, and Preston is going to talk about injustice in Texas.
Hey everyone, so he talked about 2. Well, I guess I'm the second. First off, show of hand, who here has been arrested for possession? Okay. So.
Talk to the mic.
Sorry. So one of the things, I was arrested in April for possession in Blanco County. I was taken to jail. Spent 19 hours there, and last Thursday I was given a deferred adjudication. Now, before I get to that, who knows the 3 things that happen when you get charged with possession? No one? Okay, first, it can be up to 180 days in jail. 2, $2,000 fine. And 3, which not many people know, is 180-day suspended driver's license. So you can't go anywhere unless it's your work or someplace or whatever you're allowed to do. So with that, I decided to take deferred adjudication, which means I got probation. When we went up and my lawyer discussed with the county attorney, she was trying to give me 2 years probation for 3.5 grams of cannabis. First, we got it down to 12 months. A month later, we finally got it down to 9. So for 9 months, I could not use cannabis. I use cannabis for my ADHD and depression. So with that came a whole slew of rules, 18 to be exact. I brought the paper here to read off some that stood out to me. So everyone probably thinks, okay, so you get random urinary analysis for cannabis. That's fine. Well, you also, I can just read from the list. Number 1 is commit no offense against the laws of the state or other states of the United States. Okay. 2, completely abstain from the use or possession of illegal drugs. Yeah. 3, avoid persons of disreputable or harmful character, including associations with persons on probation or parole who are or have been previously convicted of a crime. So that means everyone that raised their hands, I can't associate with you by the state of Texas. I actually had to get special permission to come here and speak by my probation officer. 6, I have to permit the supervision officer to visit my home, place of employment, or elsewhere as directed, and consent to a search of my person, residence, or vehicle that I operate, occupy, or possess at any time. This is without prior notice or a search warrant. I just have to let them in. Any alcohol or illegal drugs found in my possession will be subject to confiscation. Now, if I break any of these rules, I get convicted. So that means 180 days in jail, $2,000 fine, and a suspended driver's license for 180 days. So 8, I have to remain within the limits of the county of supervision. I cannot leave Travis County on my own. I have to get permission. My girlfriend lives in San Antonio, and I had to get permission to go down and see her. Another one is I have to submit myself to a urine, breath, blood, or hair testing as directed by my probation officer for a detection of controlled substances, dangerous drugs, marijuana, or alcohol. So I'm here, but I can't drink. I also have to do 30 hours of community service, at least 8 per month. Not bad. I like doing work for my community, but it has to be specific to them. Another one about being here is I cannot be at places that have the 51% sign. So 51% means they get more than 51% of their sales by alcohol. So any bars, restaurants that do that, so Chili's. I can't go to Chili's. I'm good not going to Chili's. Finally, within 90 days of this order, so last Thursday, I have 90 days to complete a 15-hour Texas drug offender education class. And then finally, each month, even if I go see the probation officer or not, I have to pay $60 to the Community Supervision and Corrections Department. There are more. There are 18 of these that I have to follow for 9 months. If I get caught with a positive UA, they're going to convict me. If I get caught out of the county, they'll convict me. So what I'm saying is, Texas isn't fucking around. They will try to convict you to the fullest extent of the law, and they will do everything within their power to do so. So my suggestion with that is use cannabis freely. That's fine. It is your God-given right. But guys, keep it at home or within Travis County. That's about all I have to say about this. I got 9 months, which is in March. I'll be done. So you better believe I'll be high as hell then. So on a lighter note, though, the next person coming up is my girlfriend, Amanda Berard, and it is a special day for her. It is her 30th birthday. So, in light of celebration, if we could all sing happy birthday to her, I'm sure she would really enjoy that. All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Amanda. Right there. Happy birthday to you.
Does Preston seem like the kind of person that the state of Texas should arrest and incarcerate? Look, that's just a waste of resources. 3.5 grams of cannabis. Preston's a good person. I've known Preston for years. There's absolutely no reason he should have to go through this hell that the state of Texas is putting him through for the next 9 months. We've got to stop this craziness. And we're going to, Preston. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to say that we really appreciate the owner of the Flamingo Cantina, Angela, for allowing us to have our meetings here every month. Angela also helps us participate in the Austin Reggae Fest. Be sure and tip your bartenders, and hopefully Winston will be in the back later serving Jamaican jerk chicken, really good food. We're going to have comedians. We're going to have the Mau Mau chaplains. But right now, our beautiful, fantastic, amazing, strong executive director, Jack Spinkle.
Y'all, I don't work out. I'm only a little strong. I wanted to say a few things that are kind of, I hadn't planned, but I want to say, first of all, Keith, thank you for sharing your story. The hard truth. I think a lot of people don't realize what happens and why people need cannabis, and it was just another insight into first of all why you were the way you were when we first met, and to see how far you've come. It's very beautiful. So thank you for sharing. And Preston, I appreciate you for coming up, because I'm going to say you would have not gotten in any of that trouble if our Law and Order award-winning 3-time Representative Joe Moody's bill had passed this time, if it had not been killed by deleterious actions, because that bill made it all the way to the agenda on the floor. So we're going to keep fighting for that. We're going to make sure that other people don't have to deal with what you and 70,000 other Texans a year are dealing with. It's unacceptable. And he's a patient, y'all. He's a patient, and now he cannot use cannabis for 9 months, you said? Unacceptable. So this is why we're fighting and doing what we're doing. And as a board, we have to keep growing, right? And we've got a wonderful addition to our board, Miss Amanda, who we just sang happy birthday to. She is a veteran. She is a former medic. She's also doing her master's on cannabis advocacy. I'm sorry, my dissertation is what she said. It's a PhD. I downgraded her degree. Don't play. So she's getting her PhD, and she has been very active with us over the last legislative session. She came to many press events. She came and helped educate people with personal meetings, drop off the handouts at the Capitol. She's done a really amazing job and been very helpful. And recently, she was added to our board as our secretary. And it is our very high esteemed pleasure to have her on our board helping us, because she has a great skill set and she has a varied background. She also is a pediatric nurse. So she sees these youngest patients that need this help. And I just wanted to have Amanda come up for just a quick moment to say hi to everybody and just tell us her goals as secretary. What does she see in her future? Amanda, come. The birthday girl, come. 6-inch heels on stairs. Good luck. She wears these shoes to the Capitol and walks on that in marble. She's lost her damn mind.
I usually complain about it and make people carry me. So my first goal is to not fall or get blisters. No, seriously. So I'm very excited to be a part of NORML. I started working with NORML in December 2015. Actually, I did my master's thesis with NORML on PTSD and cannabis. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm really proud of that work, though. It was a lot of stuff. Sorry, Dex. And so I'm continuing that research with my PhD right now. So as secretary, I'm really excited to get some of that stuff on the board. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really going to push the veteran stuff because, like, Dave and I are like this, and Keith, man, I love you, dude. So I'm really excited to be on the board. I was doing grant writing stuff. I'm going to continue doing the grant writing stuff for NORML because we need money. So if you have money, give it to us. We need it. And if you're online, I know you have more money. So give us money. We need it. Give it. Now it's my birthday. You have to. That's what I want for my birthday. Either money for NORML or donations. Those are your only options. So basically that's it. I got to do the fun things and I don't have to tell you my sad, horrible cry story today, and I don't think they'll ever make me do it. So I think with that, we can go ahead and move into the people who are really funny, and I'm going to go away now. Bye.
Thank you, Amanda. So we're almost done with the meeting. I wanted to touch on a few things that are coming up. We always like to touch on upcoming events. First of all, this upcoming Monday and Tuesday in Washington, D.C., National NORML is going to be holding a conference and lobby day, and I am very grateful to be able to attend. So I will be on a panel discussing grassroots activism, what works, what doesn't. And in addition to that, I will be able to meet with our representatives in Congress. I've been scheduled some meetings to sit down and talk about cannabis, and it's going to be a great opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll update you guys on the social media as to how that goes. And also this month, we've got the PACT quarterly meeting. PACT is the Patient Alliance for Cannabis Therapeutics. It's a patient empowerment group founded by Vincent Lopez, our former director of patient outreach. He passed away 2 years ago, and we continue to honor him by advocating with patients. And our guest speaker is going to be Nisha Whiteley. She's a published author. She published My Chronic Relief. And it's going to be held on Saturday, September 23rd from 2 to 4:45, and it's at the Houston Branch Public Library. We'll be back here again, of course, on October 4th for the first Wednesday of the month for our open meeting. And then save the date because on October, on October 20th, we will be holding our annual members mixer. It's a private event. It's going to be at a legendary Austin location. You only get to know the location if you buy a ticket. Okay? We're going to have live music. It's going to be catered. And we've changed up the theme a little bit this year. We're doing a new moon festival because it's going to be right after the new moon. And we're going to also have a costume contest. We usually do a Halloween contest, so you can keep in the Halloween theme, or you can, dress up pagan new moon style if you want, whatever you want. So save the date, October 20th. It's a Friday. And then also in October, the following day, Saturday the 21st, we have a senior alliance. If you notice, Bill Norton, our co-founder from 1973, he is wearing the Texas NORML Senior Alliance logo. That logo was the original Texas NORML logo, but tweaked for our Senior Alliance. So we appreciate him making the old new again. And we're going to have a special speaker, Ian Benoist. He is a cannabis connoisseur, if you will, and he'll be talking about different strains and how to choose different strains. So that's going to be Saturday, October 21st from 10:30 to 1 at the North Village Branch Library. Also on that day, Pride was rescheduled. We're having a booth there. So if anybody wants to volunteer to help or come by and visit, we'll be there. And then, of course, we'll be back here in November. Now, we plan out our timeline in 2-year increments. Because here in Texas, we only get the opportunity to change the law every 2 years. We get 140 days, and we have to cram in as much as we can, as quickly as we can. But don't think because it's the interim that there is not work to do. Governor Abbott has spoken, and now we have marching orders on what we have to dissect, refute, and empower patients to come forward and talk to him about. Because the fact of the matter is that he held a signing ceremony for the Texas Compassionate Use Program. I cannot imagine that he would sign something and hold a ceremony and not want that program to not only function but flourish. And we need to make sure, even if he says he doesn't support expansion now, he's going to hear from us, he's going to hear us refute his issues, and he's going to understand that to be a compassionate, just governor of this state, that he has to listen to the voice of his people. 84% of Texans want to change the law. They are sick of what is happening, and the status quo won't cut it anymore. So during this interim, we're going to be putting out our primary voter guide again, where we are going to survey the candidates in the Democratic and Republican parties, because they are the ones that hold primaries. And we're going to get their answers to the cannabis questions. We're going to publicize it for you so that you can look it up. It's going to have an interactive website so you can plug in your information, and it'll automatically pull up the response for the people in your area. In addition, we're going to be doing that for the general election, and that's going to include all of the parties. We're going to be polling everyone on that. And it's going to be for your representatives and your senators, because they're the ones that make legislation. So we have a lot to go through before now and then. We'll talk along the way about the different actions that we need to take each month. But I need to make sure that you guys are engaged, that you're registered to vote, you know who your legislators are, and now is the time to build a relationship. Now is when they're wanting to garner votes. Now is when they need volunteers. Now is when they're holding town halls. We cannot let the coverage that the media has, or the buzz or the conversation about cannabis, die down at all. We have managed to keep that buzz going, and we have to maintain that. So I need you guys to make a promise tonight that just because it's the interim, we can't rest. People like Preston cannot consume cannabis when it's his medicine. People like Keith are being told that they are not worthy to use cannabis despite their service for their country and the wounds that they have had inflicted upon themselves from that. And it's unjust, and I'm really happy to see so many people here tonight. And one last thing, don't forget about our friends in the coast and donating to Hurricane Harvey food drive. We've got a lot of food over here. It looks like we've also got a good amount of donations. So if you can stop by the table if you haven't already. Also, if you want to learn a little bit about our organization or check out our fabulous merch, our table is over there. And with that, my friends, I bid you adieu. And Chad Fisher, David Bass.
Thank you, Jack. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for being here. Together, we will change marijuana laws in Texas. Now we will have Chad Fisher and Austin's Funniest Comedians, followed by the legendary Mau Mau Chaplains, and Winston is set up in the back serving fantastic Jamaican food. So let's party now.
For Dave, everybody.